What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the No World Order Podcast IG Live Edition. I'm your host, Drew.
I'm your co-host, Zach.
And we are coming to you from San Diego, California. It is October 15th, 2020. And like the title says, we're going to be talking about these creatures of the mind, these mythical creatures.
Or are they mythical?
Are they?
Who knows? Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. This was my kind of
This was,
topic, right?
Yeah. I'm sure, for anyone who cares enough to listen to this weekly, I have a notebook of ideas that I just have been adding to forever and ever.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some of this is on there.
Yeah.
But this one specifically for the week was your idea.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I love it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why, but
it was interesting.
Someone said something, and I was like, oh, that'd be good. And then I kind of pass it by you, and you were all for it. So
yeah, this is my kind of stupid shit.
Yeah, it's interesting, that's for sure. I mean, I kind of went into it going like, I don't know about any of this, but man, some of the history they have is like really fascinating, especially when it comes to Iceland and the Hudafolk or elves, or I call it Hudafuck.
The hidden people, the hidden folk.
Yeah, so we're gonna go over
real quick.
Yeah.
What's another word for hidden?
What?
Occult.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So occult people or occult folk.
Interesting.
Just saying.
Interesting.
Let's get it going.
Interesting. So we're gonna go over the Hudafolk. Hudafolk,
my new favorite word.
Guys.
Yeah.
Elves, fairies, and if we have time, we'll get into dragons, thunderbirds, and mermaids.
All real.
I doubt we're gonna have time to get into everything, so we're probably gonna push this off to a second episode as well. But I found a lot of crossover between the Hudafolk, elves, and fairies. There was a lot of crossover between them. It's very interesting. They are different, but a lot of crossover as well. What was your first kind of, because you kind of said the Hudafolk. I didn't even recognize that at first. I was like, what the heck is this?
So all of my jumping off points come from, well, mostly movies and TV. Shit I pick up on and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Why are they putting that weird thing in this normal movie?
Yeah.
There's this movie that I watched on Netflix. I don't recommend it. It's called The Story of Fire Saga. It's with Will Ferrell and homegirl from Notebook. Can't remember her name. Rachel McAdams? Yeah. So they're Icelandic people, and they're like a meeting for the song contest. That's like a, big deal. And like the very, very, very small subplot is the Icelandic elves. But they play a big role, but they're in there, like the idea or them talking about it is like this much of the movie
too.
And he plays elf too.
Weird.
Yeah. So yeah, he's got, and Will Ferrell has ties to bullshit and occult shit and pedophilia shit anyway. But when I heard them say Icelandic elves, I was like, oh, and another otherwise like mediocre movie, I was like, what's up?
What is that?
What is it? What's going on?
It stood out.
And so I wrote it down, and then that's where I came up with the who the fuck.
Yeah.
And I actually put it on the back burner, put it in my notebook. So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, fucking elves, here we go.
Yeah. But there is a difference. There's a difference between those and then the other elves that we're kind of more familiar with, but we'll kind of get into
the ones that live in trees that make cookies. The ones that make shoes while the cobbler's asleep?
The ones that, okay, so these are more Icelandic.
Too many elves.
These are more Icelandic and come from that. But then the elves that we were kind of brought up with were more of the from Germany. Like those were those elves. So there is a very distinguishable difference between the two. But again, there's a lot of crossover. But we'll start with the Hudafolk. Hudafolk are those guys. It says there are at least two stories which provide an explanation for the existence of the Hudafolk. Both of these stories have a Christian aspect. The story is set in the Garden of Eden, where God comes to visit Adam and Eve one day and requests to meet their children. I don't remember any of this in the Bible, but maybe.
Same.
I don't know. But it says at the time Eve was bathing them.
But this is like fan fiction. It's just like someone's like, oh, I'm going to write this cool little fan fiction on the side.
Yeah, strange. But it says at the time Eve was bathing them, though she had not finished doing so. Embarrassed to show God the dirty ones, she hid them and only showed him those who were clean. God then asked Eve if there were more of her children whom he had not met yet, to which Eve answered no. God, however, knew what was going on and declared that those who had been hidden from him would also be hidden from man. As a result, the dirty children became the first Hudafolk. And then the second story is about a traveler who gets lost and stumbles upon a farm one night. Again, this is, I guess, apparently from the Bible. This one sounds more familiar, but I don't remember like all of it. He knocks on the door and is greeted by an elderly woman who invites him in. The woman provides him with supper and introduces the travelers to his daughters. To her daughters. The traveler is then given a bed for the night and asks if one of the woman's daughters could keep him company, a request which his hostess agrees to. In bed, the traveler tries to embrace the young lady, but his hands pass through her. The traveler inquired about what was going on and was told the story of the Hudafolk. In this tale, the Hudafolks came into being following the revolt of Lucifer in heaven, and as they were those who neither supported nor opposed the devil and his fallen angels. As a result of their neutrality, the Hudafolk were driven down to earth and forced to live in the rocks and hills. So that's kind of where it kind of comes from.
That's interesting because in Norse mythology, Thor was sent down from the heavens kind of as punishment to learn some lessons as well. But yeah, I also kind of touched on the religious aspect of where they started. Eve hiding her dirty children from God, lying about their existence. Other Christian folktales claim that hidden people originate from Lilith or are fallen angels condemned to live between heaven and hell. So kind of going off what you were saying, right? They didn't oppose nor support Lucifer. So they're living in this between heaven and hell, which is us, which is Midgard or Midland or whatever, Middle Earth. But as with everything, I think there's a cult truth to it, and I am leaning more toward them being cast off by God or originating from Lilith, which is one of those deities in the Bible that people sacrifice children to. So,
man, that's so interesting. Side note, the Path, the main creator is named Lilith, but they kind of push her to the side and stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's really interesting. And right when you said that, I was like, oh shoot, that just adds more to that show.
And yeah, not to go too far off, but also in the 90s, Lilith Fair was a big thing that drew a lot of attention and a lot of female support. And it seemed like, to me, kind of seems like a precursor to the like women's revolution going on in the last few years, but drawing from that negative demon energy of being like a devil deity from the Bible. Ooh, a lot of alliteration in that.
Yeah. And it says for many in Iceland, because I guess that's where a majority of this happens. The Hudafolk are not merely fictional characters in the country's colorful mythology. There seems to be a profound belief in the existence of these supernatural beings. Apart from that, it is also believed that the alteration of the landscape by human beings could potentially have a negative effect on the lives of the Hudafolk, and that construction projects should be halted if they would disturb them. And you had kind of mentioned that before we started, that people in Iceland don't build around these areas where they are, said to live.
They do build around the areas.
Build around.
Yeah, circumvent.
Yes, exactly.
They don't
go through.
Yeah, it's almost like a nature preserve here in the States for animals. They just like don't fuck up that land. Yeah, I was reading that the government is in on it. Different polls were saying between like 56 and 70 something % of people in that area, that population, believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think like anywhere other than America, when people believe in something, it's like hardcore. It's like they're committed to it. They know the history. They know how it can affect. Like they know a bunch of different stuff about it. And not to rabbit hole too much, but if the government wanted to control their people and maybe keep their people away from digging under certain mountains that may have tunnels or may have secrets of their own, wouldn't it be convenient for the government just to be like, oh yeah, we believe in the elves too, don't dig around that mountain?
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
But I mean, okay, a lot of, from what I was reading, is a lot of clairvoyant people kind of can see them and talk to them, and that's where they get this like oh, don't mess with them type of thing. We're getting the messages from them to not build here and all of that. And I know you've kind of had, well, have you had experience with clairvoyance? Like people in like your family or something? Or was that something different?
I've had some weird shit happen to
seers, right? Like you've had people who have been seer type.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I growing up, I had some weird shit happen to me that I didn't understand, and I still I still really don't. But about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago by now, we had some big family stuff going on, and I don't know if this happened to you, but with all this stuff going on, I had to like reach out to like different family members and like talk to grandparents in a different way than I had been, like as more of an adult and like family representative. And so I got like all of the family dirt and like secrets and stuff that they didn't talk about or didn't want anyone to know. And I found out my grandpa had experienced some shit. My dad had experienced some shit. My grandma had worked very hard to keep them away from that shit, which is why they're like hardcore Seventh-day Adventists now. So I have some experience with that stuff. It's really fucking weird and I don't understand it.
Yeah. So I'm saying like, you almost sounded like, like you didn't believe, or like, what's up with that, with the clairvoyance and saying that there's communicating with them?
To me, that falls under, and like that's just a sentence,
because,
just
like,
offhanded.
you had experience with people who have had similar experiences in the past in your own family.
Yeah.
You know, but it sounds like you're almost kind of like dismissing it with this.
I think it's real. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't doubt that there are people out there communicating with something they don't quite know or understand or see. I'm saying that's not a great path to go down.
Yeah. For sure.
That's where because there's already a negative like Christian origin to elves, right? That's one of the theories or whatever.
The Hoodafolk.
And they're between heaven and hell. They don't, they didn't support God or the devil. And then here's this fucking clairvoyant soothsayer communicating with these beings that no one can prove exist. Like,
but it says there's been like thousands of them that have been communicating with them over the years.
I believe that shit, but
not just like one or two, not
for
just
sure.
a select group.
And I was just complaining about this before we got on the air too, but all the people that think they're fucking witches now and they're doing tarot card shit and they're like, oh, I'm so fucking in one with that. I got the Joshua tree and drop some acid or whatever. Yeah. Like, they try and communicate with stuff and they claim like universe or pagan origins or whatever. I think that shit, we as people can't meet someone, shake their hand and be like, that guy's good or bad definitively. But people think they can go into a fucking different dimension with their mind, brand new to these ideas, and be able to navigate what's good and what's bad and what to believe and what not to believe without being manipulated. We're the most malleable. We're the most like malleable species.
Easily manipulated.
Yeah, if you try to do something to a fucking animal, they're like, nah, fuck you. Yeah. I'll run or I'll eat you. I don't care. But people are like, oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, I'll wear a mask for the next fucking 20 years, whatever. So, do you know what I mean? Like, we all thought Santa Claus existed until we were of a certain age. So, it's sketchy, and I wouldn't advise anyone to do it, especially if they're fucking new to it. And it just makes me scared for these people going forward. I've seen what delving in that unseen in a negative way does to people. I feel like.
So do you think, okay, like with the seers, clairvoyance, do you think it's something that you can learn, like practice and learn, or it's just a gift that's given to you and like some people just have it and they, it is what it is?
So going biblical, we'll go biblically. There are some gifts, I believe they're labeled as gifts, indirectly anyway, from God. And I think actually one of them was like speaking in tongues, but you always hear about speaking in tongues being negative or associated with mania and this and that. In the Bible, I believe they refer to it as being like one of the gifts that God can give you. So I do think people can just be born with a different awareness, knowing different shit exists.
A heightened awareness.
A heightened awareness. Yeah, absolutely. The same way some people just have higher, lower IQs. Some people have learning disability. I think that people are born
different levels.
I think people can born, or even predisposed to it, whatever. I don't think you can blame someone for being born like that. Like, I remember shit going on when I was a kid and not quite understanding. Yeah. Now I'm like, holy shit, that was weird. Yeah. But somebody that's just like, I'm going to study it all and I'm going to learn all the spells and I'm going to that's opening negative doors. I think they can do it. Absolutely. Like, that's what Crowley was doing. He was just a fucking weirdo Satanist that got a lot of power by practicing all this black magic. So I think it's real. It's just like, super duper worrisome for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It says, according to the headmaster of an Icelandic elf school, there is I know, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. They actually like believe in this hardcore. You know, it's crazy. It says not crazy, but it's like, you know, they truly believe in this. There. It says there is one kind of Huldafolk and 13 kinds of elves on the island. He says that the hidden people are just the same size and look exactly like human beings. The only difference is that they are invisible to most of us. Elves, on the other hand, aren't entirely human. They're humanoids starting around 8 centimeters. So there is a distinguishable difference between the two. Like the Huldafolk, I guess, are supposed to be humans, but we just can't see them.
Like they're in a different dimension?
Yeah, or just like... yeah,
that's what freaks me out. I think multiple dimensions exist in the dimension that we're in, and so like when I hear that, that sounds fucking perfectly plausible to me. They're like, and then these soothsayers, these fucking black magic practitioners or whatever you want to call them, are going in and communicating with beings from a different dimension the same way I think exorcising demons is, or fucking ghost busting, if that were real, and stuff like that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too, because I was looking into this and I just immediately thought, I had never heard of the Huldafolk, and then I was like, who the fuck are these guys?
It never gets old.
It doesn't.
No.
But then I was like, oh, these are actually different than the elves. Like I said, than the ones we kind of were taught to believe growing up. The more we'll get into it, the ones were from Germany and from German mythology, who were like the small little ones who, you know,
like Snow White?
Yeah, and the little elves and the ones who help Santa Claus and all of that. And again, I think that goes back to German mythology as well. I think Santa Claus actually goes back to that. So that's actually interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of just thought of that when I was in German class. That's kind of what... Yeah, that's where it kind of started. That's really interesting.
Santa should be a whole episode.
Yeah.
He's like an amalgamation of a bajillion different belief systems.
Yeah, and I guess it's supposed to be like a mushroom, a metaphor for mushrooms too. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they used to leave them in socks out over by the fireplace to dry out the mushrooms before they would all do them together. So that's allegedly where stockings came from. But we'll wait till December. We'll hold off for that one.
Yeah, that. Put a note in that one.
Get your shrooms now, friends.
I got mine. Okay, so let's move on to elves. Anything else about the Huldafolk that you wanted to mention?
So, I'm a big rock and roll fan. Grew up on old rock and roll. And from Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin, I'm sure you've heard it. The first line is, "We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs blow." So, a lot of the Norse mythology, Thor, Zeppelin was really into this stuff. Valhalla, Icelandic elves. It all just kind of seems to tie into the same stuff. And in that line, they're talking about the midnight sun. Is that the moon? Is that the second sun that's referenced in other songs? It's just interesting. It's not like this stuff keeps getting tied to benevolence or helping humanity. It keeps getting tied to like weirder and weirder, darker and hidden things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just blasting that song on the way here, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's the same fucking shit." Like they're talking about the same stuff.
Interesting.
But I think we can move on.
Yeah. So elves. It says elves were first noted in German mythology during the medieval times. For Germans, they had superpowers and were amazingly beautiful. They were considered divine or semi-divine creatures in Norse. What's it called? Norse?
Mm-hmm.
Norse mythology, the elves were divided into good and bad elves. From the Norse mythology were born the trolls as well.
Oh shit!
In more recent folk, that's what I was like. Oh shit, we got trolls, man. How did I forget about that?
And then there's ogres and shit.
Oh my god, dude.
The Shreks.
Born the trolls as well. In more recent folklore, elves were connected with fairies. So I was like, what the fuck, man? They're all the same, but a little different. Elves were depicted to kidnap or seduce human beings, and that ties into mermaids. Like, it's so crazy, man. Where was I? They're kidnapped or seduce human beings, according to the text, originated from the medieval period. That is why they were related with sexual threat and illness to human beings.
Whoa.
Yeah. In the past, elves were said to take away human children, to curse humans, or drive them mad. These things happened especially when humans interfered with the lives of the elves by disturbing them. The revenge or retaliation of the elves was to be feared.
So, again, just another filter of information. If you were the ruling body in charge of people back then, and you're like, oh, the elves don't want you to do this, and then people decide to do it anyway, couldn't the ruling body or the government back then have started abducting kids, blaming it on the elves, and like a false flag, scaring them into doing what they wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or this shit is just like fucking aliens and just like fucking demons with kids disappearing, and you can't see the abductors. Fallen angel motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I mean it's really interesting because like I was doing a lot of reading this morning about this, and like it was kind of confusing because I don't know if humans, like people, are building these tiny little houses for them, or if these tiny houses just appear and that's what they are. But it's really strange. Like there's like these tiny houses and like tiny little dwellings in these areas that is supposed to be for them, and it's like I was kind of confused on if like humans, like people, are doing it for them or if they just appeared. Like I don't really know what that was.
I think those little houses specifically, because I saw some of those, I think those are made by us, by people
for them.
Oh yeah. Only because I've seen, or I read seen that people will do like little offerings on the doorstep.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe like we did it if we're comfortable enough going up to there and placing a offering.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I don't know. I have no proof of that.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell. I was a little confused about
how cool would it be if overnight they just popped up?
They just build a
like,
little
holy shit.
things. Like what? Yeah, it's crazy. It's really interesting. Any more on the elves? Did you have anything?
What were you planning on moving on to?
Fairies.
Yeah, okay. So one of the other I guess origins, or kind of an origin, Old Norse poems called Poetic Edda, I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation, connects the stories to fertility, which is interesting because you were just talking about how they were like a sexual threat.
Yeah.
Like they fucking, like abduct people, rape people and shit like that.
Sounds like it, yeah.
So that's interesting. And then I actually have, I have two stories about possible sightings of elves.
Okay.
But not necessarily there. Here, let me give you the first one.
Yeah.
I think it's better. Oh shit. Hold on. Operator error. All right. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. So back in, when was this? It's my first time back, all right? I've been gone a while. I'm fucking working on it. I don't have a year. Okay, I don't have a year for the article, but it was within the last, 2013. Okay. So back in the day, this anthropologist went out to study the elves, and she was in, oh my God, Reykjavik, right? She was like, she learned about the existence of elves, and she was like, holy shit, I'm going to go study them as an anthropologist. And she fucking disappeared. The reason she went to go study them was because in 13, I want to say, some scientists had come out and said until recently, most experts assumed that stories about elves in Iceland were merely fairy tales, reveals Dr. Icelandic sounding last name. But the discovery in 2003 of the so-called Hobbit in Liang Bua cave on the remote Indonesian island of Flores confirmed that a race of diminutive humanoids lived there as recently as 12,000 years ago. Obviously, I doubt the official history book of anything, but talking about humanoids, that was something that you had touched on as well.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some common ground there. Apparently, there's a
wait. So they found something?
They found some shit.
Like an actual body or something? Is that what it says?
He just says until experts mostly assumed it was fake. But then, yeah. So they found this little dude right here. I'll post a picture of it on the Instagram. And they refer to him as a hobbit. And they said diminutive. So like a little person, I mean, at least, right? Yeah. It could be or what we used to call a midget, right? Who knows?
You can't say that anymore.
I know I can't say it anymore, but whatever.
That's what I was trying to say. Dwarf,
yeah. We're talking about names from thousands of years ago, guys. Cut us some slack. But apparently there was like some volcanic eruption that had, I guess, killed all of them. Whatever. So this chick, this anthropologist chick, she was like 31. She went out there to go study these guys.
Are you sure she wasn't 33?
Yeah, no, because she didn't die. Yeah, exactly. They're like, she's 31. We gotta let her live. Fuck. So she went out there to the ominous Elf Rock, which apparently has had like encounters or sightings for like the last 1,000 years. Yeah. And she disappeared, man, for 7 fucking years. And only after.
Is that supposed to be the Elf Church or whatever? Because it's in Iceland, right? Is that what it says?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the same place that I read about.
Probably. I did find a few different, like, oh, they're here. Oh, they're here. Oh, they're here.
Yeah.
But nothing I confuse with this. But, so yeah, she went to go see that shit, went missing. Everyone looked for her, gave up. 7 years later, these hikers are walking around and they see some chick allegedly like on like a rock ledge. Like they're looking up and there's like an opening and there's a rock ledge and she's sitting there fucking naked with what looked to be like Norse drawings on her back, like language or characters, something. Doodles. And she was speaking in a language that like nobody understood. The only word that they fucking got, the only word that they could like translate from her was Poodlefolk. That was the only one they're like, holy shit, like this chick fucking went out here to study them. She went to this rock where they allegedly are. She disappeared for 7 years. She's out here fucking naked, babbling. The hiker said she was walking around more like a monkey than she was a person. Like, you know, kind of like, I guess, like on all fucking fours, like doing some shit with these weird writings on her back, speaking a language no one's fucking heard of.
Wow.
So could she have just had a manic break and fucking gone crazy reading all of her research and ended up naked in the fucking... Yeah, sure. But it's really, really weird that it happened exactly where all of the freaking elves are allegedly sighted. I don't know. I thought that was rad. And then of course that leads us to the little humanoid that they found in 2003. I thought that's like pretty concrete, not concrete evidence, but something.
Yeah.
It's more than it's something tangible to look at.
It's interesting.
The other one, I won't look it up because it'll take too long, and I'm gonna revisit it again when we talk about aliens. But in Kentucky, these little creatures allegedly attacked a fucking farm in the 50s. Did you read about that? Have you heard about that?
No.
They said it was like dozens and dozens of these little green humanoids with like big ears running around. And I think it was like 5 adults and 7 kids or some shit like that. Like eventually after hours of fucking fighting these alien dwarf elves looking things, ran to the police station. They're like, dude, we're fucking under attack. Like we're under siege. Like we barely survived. And, you know, they win and no one found any. They found like gunshot fucking bullets and everywhere, but they didn't find any aliens or elves.
Yeah. Of course.
And then, and then the next night, allegedly they came back at 3:30 in the morning. And then the families like split. Like the neighbors like, oh yeah, that fucking family left. Like they were done. Like they're like, because apparently the night before they had spent hours in a gunfight with these aliens.
Sounds like Stardust Ranch to me.
That's what I'm saying. But in a different category because it happened in the 50s when I feel like they were prepping all of us for alien invasion. They're starting to start the prep. But it's fucking trippy. Apparently, like they described what it sounded like when the bullets hit these little guys, and they kept trying to like get in the house and go through windows and shit. Super duper weird. But I mean, you could categorize it under aliens. You could categorize it under elf humanoids. I thought that was also interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah. I didn't hear about that. Immediately
it's on my list.
That sounds like Stardust Ranch, like it just Stardust Ranch just ripped that off or something.
I was gonna say this sounds more credible, than the guy at Stardust Ranch, but like it's to me it's all tied into the occult. To me it's all tied into fucking bad energy manifesting and fucking with you.
Yeah. So again, these 3, the Hudafolk, elves, and now fairies, they all have very similar elements, but fairies are beings who occupy a middle realm between earth and heaven. Fairy beliefs are universal and ancient, and there are a variety of explanations of their origins. Celtic fairy lore is particularly strong and absorbed Christian elements. Fairies have magical powers and are sometimes associated with demons and fallen angels. In lore, they are capable of bewitchment and possession, requiring exorcism.
Bro, see? It's all that fucking dark energy demon shit from a different dimension, dude. I swear.
Yeah.
I'm not even drunk right now. Like that was my that's how I actually feel about it.
Then it says fairy originates from the Latin word fata or fate and evolved from fairy, a state of enchantment. According, oh yeah, go.
No, I was gonna say, yep. It's just more fucking buzzwords for me. For like, keep that shit over there.
Exactly. According to lore, fairies do not like the word. They prefer to be called by more respectful names, such as the good neighbors, the good brothers, the gentry, the people of peace, or the strangers, or themselves, and a handful of other terms. Which is interesting because they don't really like the term. Supposedly, they don't like the name fairy, but yeah, they'll have a list of others' names. So why do we, if we know that they don't like the names, why do we call them fairies instead of like all this other shit? It's weird. Fairies
I ain't gonna call them good neighbors. I'll tell you what.
Fairies are often referred to as little people. In medieval times, fairies sometimes described women who had magical powers.
So witches.
Could
Again,
be.
man. Yeah. Fuckers.
Description of European fairies have been collected from oral lore. Robert Kirk, a Scottish Episcopalian minister, was a clairvoyant.
Episcopalian?
Oh, there you go. Episcopalian.
What? Episcopalian?
Minister who was a clairvoyant visited fairyland and wrote an account. Yeah. The Secret Commonwealth in 1691-92, still one of the major first-person accounts in existence.
Sick.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting, and it goes back quite a ways.
He's like, I'm going to Fairyland. His wife's
gay?
like, where are you going?
You gay?
You can't say that, Drew.
Oh,
you can't say gay. It needs to be alternative sexuality.
Okay.
I made that up. It'll be the accepted term next week. Don't worry.
Dude, speaking of all of that, man, we're in 1984, man. Like, they're trying to remove speak and
COVID-19 84.
Change our words and grammar and all that, man. They're really doing that. Changing definitions on the spot in certain cases. It's crazy.
You know something that'll piss you off too? They're changing the alphabet.
What do you mean?
The alphabet song? You know the alphabet song.
Yeah,
there's a different version.
Updated version.
Dude, I was like, this ain't gonna catch steam.
Fucked up. It was like, oh, stop. No, don't play that.
Yeah, I know.
Just stop.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, it was all slow.
Yeah, like get the hell out of here.
Know.
We are wired for stress. We need a quick alphabet.
It says fairies live much as humans do, working and maintaining families and amusing themselves with food, drink, and music and dancing. They travel in the physical world along past tracks and wraths, which, as with their homes, must never be disturbed or destroyed by humans. If someone builds a house atop a fairy track, the fairies will pass right through it, and the occupants will sicken, their crops will fail, and their animals will die.
Whoa, it's like 5G.
The fairies act as a poltergeist, opening closed windows and doors and creating disturbances. Sometimes they will deliberately fool and attack people. Fairies kidnap people to their abodes, and especially beautiful women they take for their wives. In fairyland, a person who eats their food remains trapped in another world. To be taken by fairies means to go to the other world, also the land of the dead. If an abduction is temporary, a person sickens and then recovers. If it is permanent, the person dies and stays in the other world. If a person insults or displeases the fairies, they have the power to transform him into a beast, a stone, or something else in nature. So that's fascinating stuff.
That's weird.
And then that kind of goes back to the story of the chick that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
She kind of got stuck, for 7 years. And maybe she didn't eat any of their food, so she was able to be let go.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Maybe she figured it out.
Yeah.
She's like sitting there, like, well, I gotta eat something. I'll eat what these fucking little weirdos are giving me.
Yeah.
Then she fucking figured it out.
Interesting,
She
right?
learned a whole different language. Dude, I gotta find out. I'm gonna find out where she is now. Like, is she available to speak to? Could you imagine asking that chick questions?
Yeah.
She probably doesn't want to fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
Fuck. That's wacky.
And then the fact that they would have the power to like transform him into a beast, a stone, or something like
witchery, dude.
Yeah, that reminds me of witches. And dude, a lot of these, it's so interesting how Disney has played a part in all of these creatures, dude. And then like
Will-o'-the-wisps.
What's the one is it Frozen where they I think it's like the same thing. Like I don't think I've seen Frozen, but there's one where there's a witch, an old witch, and she kind of
Let me break out my Disney. So
yeah, go
in
for
the beginning of the Pixar timeline, which has not canon.
I love it. I
which
love
is
the
not
Pixar
theory. So
dude.
Disney
It's
hasn't
so
said, "Oh yeah, this is
fascinating.
right," but that shit is fucking
It makes
right.
sense.
So it makes sense because in Brave, little orange-haired
Brave,
girl
that's
in
what it is.
Ireland,
Yep.
she is different. Whatever, and then she sees the Will of the Wisps, which I didn't know until after Brave. I had to go look it up. That shit is based on fucking real occult shit. So she follows the Will of the Wisps, little fucking lights or whatever. They look like, I don't know, like bugs flying kind of in the movie. She follows that into the woods. She finds a fucking witch, and this witch ends up turning her brothers into fucking bear cubs and her mom into a bear, and like all this shit happens. And then later on, the little girl, Brave, I just call her Brave, goes back into the woods to talk to the witch, be like, yo, what the fuck? And the whole house is gone. The witch isn't there, of course. And side note, in the Pixar theory timeline, this witch has little wood carvings of Mickey and Sully from Monsters Inc., meaning she jumps timelines, dimensions, fucking.
And isn't there like the Toy Story truck too? The pizza truck, I think that's in there as well.
In Brave?
Yeah,
oh my god, I'll have to double check.
So.
It's been a while since we should do a Pixar theory one. But yeah, so like they're implying, and not to the fucking average watcher, but people like us that understand it, or more likely for Disney, the people high up that fucking like believe and worship this shit. They're saying like, oh yeah, this is the witch. She is the Will of the Wisps. She does have the ability to go into different dimensions and fucking timelines because black magic. So that's where it started. And then later on, Frozen is like, she is a witch. She's born with these fucking powers. And funnily enough, in Frozen, they one of the characters knows these people that live like out far away from everybody else that he goes to for advice because they kind of raised him. They're fucking rock people. They're like little rock humanoids. So
ties right in.
They're the same size. They're fucking made of rock now. And then in the second Frozen, it gets even worse, dude. Like it is even more like pagany. Like
really?
they have like different chants, and they have these fucking things that come back to life, and like it is for sure dark. But yeah, they fucking have. And then if you want to go even further, since Marvel is owned by Disney now, in Thor: The Dark World, it's Thor 2, he has to go fight the Dark Elves. In that movie, they're from space, outer space, different fucking, beyond the ice wall, I guess. But yeah, same idea. They're a little shorter. They got fucking pointy ears. They do black magic, and they do bad shit.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
then,
there,
it
man.
goes back like just Disney, man. Like
Disney,
they have Snow
dude.
White, the Seven Dwarfs. They have the Little Mermaid. Like like all this stuff that we're talking about. Like they really believe. You can even go to Mulan and the dragons. You know what I mean? Like
the
it's
new
crazy.
Mulan, she's a witch. The one they just put on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
She's a fucking witch. That's the whole subplot.
I know you said you watched it or whatever, and like they didn't do it good, right?
No.
Like according to the original. The original was so awesome.
It was like, and what pisses me off is the original was kind of its own. It was ahead of its time when it was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because she was pretending to be a dude.
Yeah.
But not because of fucking sexuality reasons. Whatever.
Yeah.
She was pretending to be a dude for like family honor. You know what I mean? So it was already ahead of its time.
Definitely.
We didn't like they took out Mushu, so there's no fucking funny talking dragon, right? Instead, they made it a fucking phoenix, which again is like the biggest fucking occult fucking Mason symbol ever. It's symbol of being reborn after fire. Mulan is a witch. And she like does like fucking crouching tiger, hidden dragon stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's another witch that nobody fucking likes because she's a fucking witch, and they have like witch fights. I'm like, what? No, Mulan is about fucking family honor, like from an Asian perspective.
Exactly.
It's not like, you know what I mean? Like Disney used to be like, okay, we're gonna bring you here and show you this world. We're gonna go show you this. And now it's like, no, we're gonna bring it all here to the occult world, and you're gonna learn occult shit from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
It says not all fairies are hostile or are tricksters. It says some are kind and helpful to people with conditions though. It says, for example, the household brownies, which is another subset of elves or fairies or some shit. Like not baking brownies. Like I was confused when I read that too. It says they'll help with chores as long as the occupants are respectful, leave out milk, cream, and food for them.
It's that
and
Santa
are
thing,
not
dude.
Messy. Yeah, exactly.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So they'll clean up as long as you're not messy.
Yeah.
That's my condition for living in a house too. I'll clean up as long as you don't make a mess.
Yeah, what sense does that make, right?
Elf sense.
It says once food is left for the fairies, it must not be eaten by man or beast, for the fairies take the essence of the food, and it is no longer fit for others to consume. If food falls on the floor, the fairies claim it, and it must be given to them.
What? So some really sad dogs in these houses that believe this shit. Candy food off the table, candy food off the floor.
But it sounds like only if it's offered to them, or if it falls on the floor, then it has to be given to them. Yeah, they get first.
They get dibs on floor food.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound very respectful. How much? Their logic.
And it sounds like they only take the essence of the food. So it's like you're still gonna have food there that you cannot eat and just throw it away.
So then when it rots, they're like, oh look, they took the essence. It's rotting.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I like some of the alternate origins of fairies. I have a quick few bullet points.
Yeah, go for it.
Souls of the unbaptized and pagan dead trapped between heaven and earth. That sounds real. Guardians of the dead living in an other world that exists between the living and the dead. They have the power to take people, and when they do, those people die. Whoa. Ancestral ghosts. How creepy would that be? You see a fairy and it's like your fucking great grandpa trying to give you some life advice.
Be interesting.
Fallen angels cast out of heaven, of course. Nature spirits, fucking pagan shit. Supernatural creatures, that's my favorite one. I just like saying supernatural. But it's fucking weird. We don't understand it.
It's supernatural.
Yeah, I love it. Small human beings. Oh, that's no fun. That's a logical explanation. I don't care about that. Yeah, no. Well,
yeah, watch out.
I know, dude. I'm bring the house down.
That was all of the fairies. Any final thoughts on those?
The haunting quote from Disturbing Behavior in 1998 that says, "Meet the musical little creatures that live among the flowers."
Say that again?
Meet the musical little creatures that hide among the flowers.
What
it's
was
weird.
That from?
Disturbing Behavior. It's like a kind of like a not really sci-fi, but it's kind of like a low-key horror movie for teenagers. But it's like one of my fucking favorite movies ever. It deals with mind. It's basically about mind control.
Really?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's like been one of my favorites since I was 11 when it came out. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was those is the Huldfolk, elves, and fairies. So a lot of similarities, don't you think?
Yeah, it's
a lot of crossover.
It's so much so that it's almost hard to keep it all like separated and straight.
Yeah,
like nothing is.
It is.
It's almost like nothing is characteristic of just this one subsect or possible being. So like
that's why I was initially looking up Huldfolk and elves, and then I was like, oh no, they are different. So I kind of had to separate it. But yeah, there's just so much crossover between it. It's really interesting. So then that brings us to dragons. This was really interesting because there's like the European dragons and there's the Chinese dragons as well, which are very different. But it says it's not clear when or where the stories of the dragons first emerged, but the huge flying serpents were described at least as early as the age of the ancient Greeks and Sumerians. For much of history, dragons were thought of as being like any other mythical animal, sometimes useful and protective, other times harmful and dangerous. So again, the same type of duality, the battle of good and bad. That changed, of course, when Christianity spread across the world. Dragons took on a decidedly sinister interpretation and came to represent Satan. So again, that's weird how it wasn't like that initially, but then Christians come and like, oh no, this is to try and fit their agenda.
I love
That's
it.
what pisses me off with Christians. They just try and like make shit up, dude.
It's all bad.
Yeah,
because they know
bad.
They're like it's
everything
all it is
bad.
everything
but
is bad.
It wasn't though. A lot of this wasn't all bad. They had good and bad, just like anybody. There's good and bad in everybody. But yeah, then Christians just come and like, nope, it's all bad. It represents Satan and the devil. And it's like, I don't know about that.
I'm in with it.
Of course.
It's all bad.
It says in medieval times, most people who heard anything about dragons knew them from the Bible, and it's likely that most Christians at the time believed in the literal existence of dragons. What is it?
As opposed to the metaphorical?
Leviathan?
Leviathan. Wait, where are you? I'm assuming it's a Leviathan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Leviathan, the massive monster described in detail in the book of Job, chapter 41, sounds like a dragon, and it says, quote, its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between. They are joined fast to one another. They cling together and cannot be parted. Its snorting throws out flames of light. Its eyes are like the rays of dawn. Flames steam from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot of burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze and flames dart from its mouth.
Sick.
Is that really in the Bible?
So I was just going to say, back in 2011, I started doing Bible dinosaur research, which quickly led me off the offshoot of Bible dragon research. So I have like a binder of fucking dragon research somewhere that I can't find that would have been perfect for today.
Yeah.
But I do have like a handful of Bible verses or passages that seem to allude to it, and I don't remember that one being there.
Yeah. It's just like the Hordefolk is like, I don't remember these stories.
I'll check it. I mean, I got a fucking
but it says it's
KJV
from
at home.
Job 41, so just look up that. I wish I would have looked it up, but I just didn't. I got so sidetracked into all this other stuff.
Should have brought my Bible.
Yeah, I mean, you can look it up real quick while I just continue on, but it says some are only a few feet long, others span miles. Some dragons live in places under the ocean, while others can be found in caves and inside mountains. So again, there's like been different kind of distinguishing types of dragons, and I'll kind of get into this. It says the European dragons feature a set of wings and 4 legs. It has the animal level intelligence. Most of them are described to resemble the reptilian. The European dragons are features in various folks in Europe. People also associate the creature with the mythologies of Western Asian and Balkans. And then it says the Chinese dragons have no wings. However, they have 4 legs. The intelligence is above the animal. The Chinese dragons are always described as the serpentine creature. The Chinese dragons are also spotted in other Asian cultures like East Asia, Korea, Japan, and South Asia.
I want to chime in right here real quick because I have a special connection to not Japan, but Okinawa, which was taken over by those damn Japs back in the day before World War II. And they treated them like shit, but that's a different story. But a lot of what Okinawan belief comes from China, actually, as opposed to Japan, because they're like, always fighting back in the day. So my wife does traditional Okinawan folk dance, and I've come to know it a lot, and like different videos, different dances. You need different people, different sets of people to do different dances. Some of the shit that they do, and I haven't seen it here, but I've seen videos of it, is they do like a dude goes out there and is like fucking banging a drum or like dancing or whatever. Yeah. And then he's basically doing like a summoning, like he's calling for these fucking dragons from a different dimension. And then like they do like 2 people into like a dragon costume and they're going up and down and shit. But like every song has its story that it came from. And this one is you go out there, you summon it a certain way, and then the dragons come and they're there, they're present. You've summoned them. Typically with you can call them like temple dogs or shishis. There's 2, right? They come in 2. One has a mouth open and is a little higher. One has a mouth closed and is a little lower. They're supposed to like protect you coming and going. Keep bad stuff out, keep good stuff in. So at least Okinawan style, what they do with their dragon summoning is supposed to be like good. However, that does come from Chinese stuff where they were probably also trying to summon these things. Yeah. Whether they were tangible fucking reptilian monsters or, like I always think everything is, some sort of dark energy manifested and controlled. But going back to the Job thing real quick, I found the passage, the way I'm seeing it in at least 2 different other versions of the Bible. I go off of King James because it's typical. It's not phrased like that. This is saying like, oh, there's this fucking thing and it has this stuff.
Yeah.
This one is like, will he make a covenant with thee? Will thou take him for a servant for another? Like, it's like questions. It's like, can you pierce his armor? That's like a shield. And so I don't know. I'm gonna have to go read like the passage before and after as well.
Yeah.
But
see, that's what I'm saying,
it's
man.
phrased differently, but it's I would say like that stuff is that's not a lie. Like that's not inaccurate. It's just not maybe the same interpretation or
but if it says
reading.
it's from a verse, it's like, how are you gonna just make up a complete verse? That's what pisses me off when I'm like reading this stuff. It's like, yeah, I guess I should have done more research and actually looked into that, because it doesn't say that.
Right.
It does not say that in the Bible that we know.
Exactly.
So that's what's frustrating to me.
So then you could go into different Bible versions or even different languages translated, and you might get something different.
But then again,
then you're just chasing your tail.
Exactly.
And it doesn't really matter. No one's going to listen to you say all that stuff anyway. I've tried. But continue on. Yeah. The Chinese dragons.
Well, I just thought this was interesting. We talked about this before we got on. It says the word Draco in Latin and dragon in English is taken from the word drakon, a Greek word. The meaning is water snake, dragon, or serpent of huge size. And then I just thought it was really interesting because of the whole Draco and Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter and him being a part of Slytherin. I thought that was a really interesting connection as well.
That's true. And Harry Potter realizes he has his powers by communicating with a snake in the very beginning of book 1. Yeah, that's a fucking dark set of books too. But I didn't know that Draco thing.
Doesn't it have stuff to do with Latin too?
Yeah.
So that's all just really interesting. I immediately saw that, and that's what triggered that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Harry Potter right there.
That's a good one.
Crazy.
There was God, I wish I had my old research, but there was I don't think it was Magellan, but it was some like real famous explorer, and allegedly he had been, I think maybe in prison, or he had been somewhere. What was I?
It says that is definitely a dragon in 4119. Out of his mouth go burning lamps and sparks of fire leap out.
I mean, it sounds like a dragon. I would like to also like brainstorm what else those attributes could look like. You know what I mean? Because we hear it and we're looking for dragon. Yeah, it fucking sounds like a dragon for sure. But like, what other wonky shit could it be? And I when I was doing this stuff back in 2011, I was like 100% dragons, dinosaurs in the freaking Bible. And then later on, I was like, dinosaurs don't exist.
Dinosaurs aren't real.
So I have to revisit what I think they are talking about in the Bible.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of the mindset that some sort of dragon animal creature existed. Yeah. Like it's on the freaking, what is it, the Zodiac? Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah. Like all the other animals are legitimate animals we know. Like if we're doing half and half, why wouldn't we do like half mythological animals, half real animals? Why is it just the one? And like if the Bible reference is like legit, if it holds water, then we have like that's my reference, like first reference for everything. Like if it's that old, referencing something that was around back then, like that's good. Anyway, one of these explorers I was reading about allegedly wrote about something. And the way he described it in like sizes of stuff we don't know nowadays, but I had to like go fucking research how big it was. He was saying the eye of these things was about this big, right? And it's like when you read it, what he sounded like he was describing was a fucking dragon. It was like, I think he said like reptile, it was big, its eyes were this big, and like I think it kind of lived with like kind of within harmony with everybody else there, like, as long as it didn't fuck with them. But this was like an explorer, like a guy who like did cartography and people like paid attention and listened, and we like based some of our stuff off of his findings initially that explored the world, you know, and he was like, oh yeah, these big fucking like scaly lizards with big ass eyes are crazy. And I think he said something about them like breathing smoke as well. Yeah. Which I went down that rabbit hole, and there are actually insects that make fire and smoke come out of them as a form of self-defense. Yeah. Wow. So it exists, man. It's real. Yeah. Like at least in bugs.
That's what's crazy. Like insects and even plants, dude. Like they have these crazy defense mechanisms that like protect themselves and, you know, make sure they don't get eaten and stuff. So we only have like 6 minutes left. You want to hold off on Thunderbirds and mermaids and just kind of. Or do you want to run through Thunderbirds real quick?
No, we can hold off. Yeah. I think it's a better classification elsewhere. But
so
yeah.
we can just like recap everything. But yeah, so next week we should be getting the Thunderbirds, Mermaids. I put
How much time do we have
for what?
for the rest of this? We got
Like
5
minutes, 5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, then I was saying like trolls, witches, leprechauns, gnome. This is probably gonna be 3 or 4 parts, man. Like there's a lot of these creatures. Again, a lot of them have these similarities and stuff, and yeah, I just think it's really interesting, especially with the Huldafolk, the elves, and the fairies. There was just so much crossover with that, and then the dragons. That's just interesting stuff.
But for people that do believe we live on a spinning ball and that fucking dinosaurs existed all over the earth billions of years ago, why is a dinosaur implausible? Do you know what I mean? Like, most people are like, oh yeah, dinosaurs existed. They're fucking dinosaur bones underneath my house.
Yeah.
Okay. Did dragons exist? No. Why the fuck not?
Oh,
like, you know what I mean?
You misspoke there. Yeah,
Did
yeah.
If someone believes in dinosaurs that they
should
existed,
be able to believe in dragons.
why
as
the
well.
jump, dude? I got heavy into it back in the day, to the point where I went to the library and I was looking through books about Bibles and dinosaurs and dragons and shit, and I found this one Lego Bible book. It's fantastic. It's Lego Bibles. It's like for kids, right? And it's like little Legos set up. So I went to Noah's Ark, and in Noah's Ark, it's like Lego Noah's Ark. It's badass, and there's fucking animals going up into the boat and shit. Mm-hmm. They have the fucking Lego dragons, like from when we were kids. They have them there as if they were animals going aboard Noah's Ark. And because this was 2011, this is before I knew anything about anything.
Yeah.
I was not fucking woke.
Into it,
I believe 9/11 was fucking Muslim extremists. But back then,
boy, were you wrong.
Boy, was I wrong. But back then, this was like my first, like, I'm onto something and I'm gonna research it. And then I found that Lego thing, and it had fucking the dinosaurs / dragons with the other animals going to the ark, and I was like, dude, I'm not the only one who has thought about this, to the point where it's in a book for kids.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
trippy.
really interesting.
Anyway, continue the recap.
Oh, that's kind of it. I mean, yeah.
Ooh, Evolution of Life one's talking about flat Earth. I'm gonna have to hold off on that flat Earth because that's like a 3-hour show.
Yeah, it's definitely flat. Thank you. It's definitely flat. You can believe whatever you want, but
Frederick Leedy, I appreciate your candidness all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I can go back and forth. I think it's flat, but I will for sure have the conversation and entertain other shit.
Yeah,
it's
got to be open-minded.
It's got to be my favorite one because I think it's flat, but I also think there's shit beneath us. You know, so I don't realms maybe.
Yeah,
layers all day. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what's interesting because, oh yeah, you don't necessarily believe in like a hollow Earth, right?
I would need more definition of what a hollow Earth is.
Like,
do I think fucking Admiral Byrd?
So instead of the lava and the molten and the core and all of that,
yeah, that's all fake.
There's actual like life in there. Like there's actual like, you know, trees, water, like all that shit, and people, like a whole separate. And that's where it's like, okay, I don't know if it's beyond the ice wall or if it's hollow Earth.
Center. It's in the center.
I think that's where a lot of these creatures and stuff kind of come from.
That's where the last remaining unicorn is.
Yeah, with Elvis.
I'm kidding. There's 2 unicorns. One is on the East Coast. Yeah, but God, now I wanted to just talk flat Earth. No. We got 1 minute left.
Yeah, 1 minute left. You can't cram that in.
But yeah, Sheol. That's kind of where I'm at.
What is that?
It almost looks like one giant, like a fucking round realm, but it's like shit down here, and then us, and then the heavens, and then the firmament dividing the waters from the waters. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's any proof of anything, so could be flat, could be hollow. I don't think it's round or spinning through space like that.
You don't feel 4 different directions right now?
That I don't believe. But as far as flat or hollow or something like that, it could go either way.
I'm into it. There's probably, I'm sure there's doors to places of the world we will never see.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear your shit though, Evolution of Life. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah,
I'm interested. Yeah. Start me off somewhere else. Give me a blank slate and let's talk.
Yeah, that's all I know is it ain't no ball. But that is kind of going to do it for today. We kind of have a lot to go over next week with
Cryptoids.
Creatures of the Mind 2. And then
Electric
at the
Boogaloo.
end of the month, we're going to talk about some origins of Halloween and that kind of stuff. Maybe we can tie the witches into Halloween. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good
Figure
one.
it out. But
Spoiler alert, it's all occult evil bullshit.
yeah, exactly. But dive into it.
But we'll
deep,
dive into it.
The history of and why it is. But yeah, this will be uploaded. The audio only will be uploaded on YouTube tomorrow. Check that out.
That's it, Holmes.
That's about it for us. Quantum physics says outer space is flat.
You need to come back.
Okay, peace.